It has now been a little over 2 weeks since I got this flip phone right here. And today, what I want to do is discuss my overall takeaways for these first 2 weeks. I think it's basically been 2.5 weeks since I got the new SIM card in, switched one of my plans to what actually was working. And so I've experienced it the past few weeks. And I want to go through pros, cons. Are there any? I'll discuss. But the reason I decided to finally buy this flip phone was because for the past year, I've come across seeing those different videos that pop up of people who have made the decision to try a flip phone. And those are interesting just because I think that the idea of not having that, constant access to social media, all those different things, can be very enticing, even though my screen time was probably around 5 hours per day on my iPhone, which I decided was not necessary. But I think sometimes when you have the phone or smartphone on your person, it can be difficult just to not use it. And so I almost wanted to restrict myself. And so basically, around a month ago, I just finally decided, you know what, I'm just going to give it a try. If I don't like it, I can always go back. But I had this feeling down inside that I probably would like it. And so far, I have loved having a flip phone. It has been a major difference. And I think the biggest thing has been just how free I feel. There's something about limiting access to things that almost makes you just feel more free. I think that when you have constant access to things like the internet, like Google, like all these things, it is incredibly helpful. And when you're out and about, to be able to research things, look things up, talk to people, all those things, that can be very nice. But not having access to Google, social media, things like that, when I'm out and about, is very nice because you just don't even have that ability to sit there and distract yourself. And for this flip phone I have, it basically only has text, call, maps, a camera, and no social media, no internet browser, things like that. So basically just the basics. And so I think the biggest thing has been how free I felt. And I think that just moving from always having, like, in your idle moments, when you're sitting there and you're wherever you are, when you have the smartphone in your pocket, you just have the ability to distract yourself. You can pull up social media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you decide to use. And so I think the biggest thing is just moving from using my iPhone in such a way where in lots of those quiet moments, you just pull out your phone when you're places. I think that's been the biggest difference. And so mentally, you can totally feel the difference. You go from in those moments using your smartphone to in those moments when you're out and about, and let's say you're waiting somewhere, you really have nothing to do. And so one situation that I think gives the best, that was one of the most eye-opening for myself right after I got this flip phone. It was about a day or two after I received it, and I had to go to this appointment, and there was a ton of people in the waiting room. And I mean, sometimes I'd sit there in waiting rooms and not really do anything, but in this moment, I just had my flip phone, and so I didn't really have anything to distract myself with, and so I sort of just sat there and was observing my surroundings. And because I was in that mindset of really starting to recognize what it's like to have a flip phone and not a smartphone in your pocket, it really opens your eyes to everything around you. And so I'm sitting there, and most people had their eyes glued to their smartphones, which I would have had if I had not recently bought the flip phone. But you just really realize how glued every single person is to their smartphone when you're out and about and you don't have the ability to do it. And I always sort of wonder about, what it used to be like before everyone had all these phones. I mean, when I grew up, my parents had flip phones and things like that, and it wasn't until I was maybe 10 or 11 that the iPhone came out. So there was a period where I wasn't, surrounded by smartphones, but for the past, 15 or so years, that's pretty much been the reality. And so when you sit there and you look around and you see everything that's going on, it just really opens your eyes to just how crazy it is that we have these devices that our brains are locked into. And I think that's the other big thing is it's almost like there's two worlds going on. You have the real present reality that we're all living in. Then you have this technological realm. And when you are giving your attention to your technology, it's almost like you're living in a different world, and you're being influenced by the different thoughts that are coming on social media and the thousands of thoughts that are coming constantly. And I think that to have the flip phone, you are just inputting much less information into your brain from different sources, and because of that, I think that there's just a lot more mental clarity. That's what I've experienced specifically. is your mind is so much more at ease. I think it's just the fact that when you have, let's say you pull out your phone in a minute in a quiet moment, and let's say you have 10 free minutes and you're scrolling through Twitter or Instagram. I mean, how many different thoughts and ideas are you coming across in that short period of time? Maybe 50, 100, more than that. And if you start adding up the hours we spend on our phones, it's just pretty much, it's mind-boggling to think how much, how many different ideas are coming at us. And I think the big thing too is just, the amount of outrage and negativity and things like that. What you fill your mind with, it does impact how you think and how you see things. And so I've experienced a lot more peace and just stillness and quietness by not having this constant distraction. And I had a few months ago, I think it was actually the first video here on this channel, I had deleted social media for about a week. And that sort of gives you a similar feeling just by losing the social media. I still have my laptop at home, so I can use it occasionally. But I think deleting social media gives a similar effect to just sort of having a flip phone, because that's basically what it does. It forces you to not look at those things. And so also a few of the, I don't know, I honestly wouldn't call them cons. I guess they could be seen as cons. But I think that what having a flip phone has brought me has far outweighed any potential downside, which I honestly don't really see these as downsides. They're just interesting things that you'll notice. But, one of the things was, I'm in a group chat, and when I switched my phone, everyone got upset that the text went from blue to green. I don't think it's a big deal, but some people are very concerned about that. But then apparently it messed up the group chat, and it basically started sending random, people started receiving individual messages for a little bit. But then once I got on, my phone asked me, it was like, do you want to send individual messages or group messages? So I did group. And so then it was fixed, besides the green, which some people don't enjoy, which I don't mind. I also can't react to messages anymore, which is odd because you get used to doing that. But anyways, that's one thing. It may switch things up there for you a little bit. And also, it really is odd. Like when you're so used to having Google on you at all times, you don't really realize how much you use it, at least for me personally. I don't know if everyone else is the same. But if you're out and about and you have an idea and you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on here, you look it up. I'm like, oh, wait, I can't look it up. I can't figure out anything right now. So it's almost like you either have to just forget about it or put it in the back of your mind to look up when you get home, which at first is really odd because it's almost like, you have a second brain with your iPhone, which people have talked about. And with the flip phone, you just don't have the ability. And honestly, that's one of the more freeing things. I think restricting yourself can actually be very freeing. And so that's another odd thing. Also, one of the things is when it comes to music, that's another thing to get used to. I still have my iPhone. I'm actually filming on the iPhone right now. It has no service. It can be on Wi-Fi at home, so I can still use it like that if I need to. I haven't used it a ton, but I've almost started using my iPhone like an iPod because I still have Spotify on there. And I've a few times taken my iPhone with me in the car as an iPod. A lot of times I'm just listening to the radio now or just sitting there in silence. So that has been a major shift, which is almost nice because I think that it's cool to be able to pick your songs and find a podcast, but it's almost like when you don't have the ability, your mind is more free because you're not having to make any decisions regarding, what you're listening to. Just turn on the radio or sit there in silence. It's you have much less, decisions to make when it comes to that. That's another thing as well. It is odd not to have the banking apps on your phone, things like that, which can be helpful if you're out and about and need something. So just the things that you would probably imagine that you may think to yourself, wait, am I going to have access to this when I'm out and about? Those are the things that I think could be the downsides if you are considering getting a flip phone. But as I said, I really don't see those as downsides. I was out and about a few days ago and I needed something from one of the apps I didn't have. And because I didn't have it, I couldn't do what I was trying to do. It honestly just sort of made me laugh. I was sort of waiting around and I had a question about something and I was trying to call someone to get the answer because I didn't have Google and they didn't answer at the time. So I was just sort of sitting there for 10 minutes and it was honestly a little bit amusing. And so I just drove home and decided I wasn't going to do what I was going to do. But honestly, it was almost more funny than it was upsetting. So there are things like that are just random that you wouldn't even expect that will start to come up. But all in all, I'm so glad I made the decision to switch. I don't know if I'll do it forever. I might. There's a good possibility I do because I really have loved having the flip phone. And so I think if you're someone who has been debating it, and I think, a lot of people deep down know that, if they restrict themselves more on social media and they use their phones less, that there's probably a good chance that they're going to be mentally more clear and things like that. I think the hard thing is actually making the decision, because for myself, for the past year, I've thought about it. It's come up in my mind. I've deleted social media at times, but just randomly a month ago, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to make the switch. And I feel like if you're having those thoughts, there's a good chance that it will be very beneficial to you. And so I think that there are a lot of different ways to, I guess you could say, work around any problems you could have by making the switch. I still have a laptop, which I can use at home. I still have my iPhone, which on Wi-Fi I can use, which I don't use a ton, but I can use it if I need to. I currently don't have the social media on my phone. But all in all, I think that my overall takeaway is my mind feels more clear. I feel more free. Not having access in public, just sort of sitting with your thoughts more, is very impactful, because I think that, if we live life and we never have quiet moments to really process things, to think about things, to reflect on things, I think that we can just be in sort of like a chaotic mindset where things are just sort of unresolved, and the stillness, the time of quiet and reflecting allows you to just really come to different conclusions about things and be more clear in your thinking and things like that. And I think that is probably one of the more beneficial things. And when you have less distractions, it allows you to focus on things and really open your eyes to see what you really want to spend your time doing. And so because I haven't had, a smartphone, I've been reading a lot more. I've been trying to do that more recently, which I have done, because I'm not spending much time on any social media really, besides YouTube. I do use YouTube a good amount. But besides that, I've been reading a lot. I've been spending a lot more time in quiet, things like that, so you have a lot more time to think. And it really just, one of the final things I'll touch on is I think that social media can be great, because I do think there's a benefit to, having that social aspect online to talk to people, things like that. Even here, making this video, it wouldn't be possible without social media. So I think there are benefits. It's not like it's all negative. But I think that it almost starts to open your eyes more to, wait, like, it may feel like I'm being incredibly social or being social in any way by being here on social media, seeing what people are saying. But then when you're not on it, you look around and you say, maybe I should go talk to a human in real life. You know what I mean? It just sort of opens your eyes to those things, which I guess is somewhat obvious. But I think that the time that you don't spend on your phone, you start to think of other things you can do and things that may be even more beneficial than spending hours scrolling through social media, which can be very addicting. And before I got the flip phone, I was definitely spending a lot of time doing that. And so it just seems like I have a lot more time on my hands, which can be beneficial, I would say. So those are some of my major takeaways. This is only a little over 2 weeks in. I'll probably make some more videos in the future. And I also have a newsletter I recently started where I've shared some thoughts as well, which I'll try to put at the top of the description section. It's just my name, Luke Beller, or www.lukebeller.com if you want to hear more thoughts or hear more newsletters there. Read them in the future. So let me know if you guys have thought about this, if you guys have done it, what you have thought as well. I'd be curious to hear more people's opinions and thoughts in the comment section. But if you would like more content like this, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.